join this Taylor Swift party. So
You're having a Taylor Swift party?
I'm not having a Taylor Swift party.
Again? You're having a Taylor Swift party again? Who's having
I'm not having a Taylor Swift party.
YouTube TV to watch up the
Who's having the Taylor Swift party?
My wife and kids.
Oh, oh, so Taylor's not really there, huh?
Well, all right. So Mandy actually got tickets for tonight for last night's show about 8 months ago, and she sold them for like $3,000.
Oh, good Lord.
Wow. She didn't want to go?
Um, she felt that so she's taking the girls to Paris and London this summer. So $3,000 goes a long way.
Yeah. I mean, Taylor Swift seems nice, but I'd rather go to Europe.
Yeah.
True.
So
I mean, I'm not really, I don't know her music. I tried a little bit and it wasn't for me, being old and all, but she seems really great as a person.
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, agreed.
As far as billionaires go.
Still, I'd probably rather go to Texas.
You'd rather go to Texas
Probably.
than Europe?
No, than see Taylor Swift because I could maybe see you in.
Oh,
Texas,
look
you
at
see.
that. Bucking
right.
for a raise.
I don't think I'd go to Florida though, man. It's crazy.
No.
I've promised him a blurb before the day's out, so he's being nice to me.
Oh,
Just today.
Yeah.
Just today now.
Jeez.
We should do intros for the benefit of those people who are listening on Spotify and Apple.
Oh, wait, are people listening right now? Are we live?
Is it 6 p.m. Eastern?
6:01.
Yeah, there you go. Pete Rollick, Taylor Swift devotee. We introduced you.
No, Pete Rollick, writer, editor, Man About Town, Depeche Mode Forever. Just picking a band at random.
All right, personal Jesus. What else?
Survived the hurricane, no damage, and we're good here.
That's great.
Yeah.
Mark.
I'm Stephen Mark Rainey, editor of Death Realm and many other things, and a horrible writer. Very, very horrible.
Well, that's not true.
Well,
what's
Yes, it is. No.
See, I was waiting for Pete. I did that for Pete specifically. So
talk about your book that's coming out in February.
Okay, I've got a new one. It's sort of a cross between your traditional haunted house and some Lovecraftian cosmic horror. It's called A House at Blacktooth Pond. It'll be coming out.
I've been reading the wrong book to give you a blurb.
Oh, that figures, Mike.
It's not the Book of Job. I thought that was the title.
No.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, you rascal. Anyway, coming out from Crossroad Press in February, and of course, I'll be doing lots and lots of hollering about it until you want me to shut up.
Well, I've always thought one of the benefits of enduring every Sunday being a panelist is to promote your work. So the house at Blacktooth Pond, and you'll get a pre-order link sometime the next week or two.
Well, I don't know how soon it's going to be.
Well, tell us when you do, so that
I will. Yeah, it probably won't be that soon, but the publisher just said soon, and I don't.
That means the day before it. That could mean the day before it.
Yeah,
it's supposed to go live.
Just never know, but I keep in pretty close contact, so I should have some advance warning. And like I said, yeah, you'll everybody here will probably know it more than they want to.
What? Anybody got the time? Anyone have the time? Oh, hey, Matt. How are you?
Just snuck in.
Yeah.
Isabel's post-op, so I have to periodically see how she's doing.
How is she?
Oh, fine. She got a knee replacement, and it's just a super painful surgery for the first week or two.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard. I don't ever want to find out.
And then the cyborg strength kicks in.
Yes.
Well, I wish she was bionic.
Well, first of all, greetings to everyone who are watching live, who are watching later, and listening later. Um, if you're watching live, thank you. I always love that. And Matt, you want to introduce yourself? You have a prize?
Yes, I do have a prize. Um, I got this stash of strange Eon magazines uh, from an anonymous donor, and I'm giving those away slowly. So the prize this week is a copy of issue number 20. Really quite nice. If you want a chance to win, you send an email to easyprizes@gmail.com and put SA20 in the subject heading. We'll draw a winner in 6 to 8 weeks or so, and if you enter it, maybe it'll be you.
Speaking of prizes, did you give me this? In the Realms of Mystery and Wonder at Clark Ashton Smith.
I don't remember, Mike.
I think it was a Patreon, or I'm not sure. Whoever did, it's been a couple years, and I really appreciate it. But I would like to give it to someone who will probably get more out of it than me and peruse it more than me.
Oh, that's a gorgeous book.
It is.
It's not just that it has his prose poems, it has photographs of most of his sculptures and quite a few of his paintings.
Yeah.
Actually, I think they were ink drawings. I don't know that he ever painted.
I'm going to give this to a random Patreon. And I don't know what this would go for, but I imagine somewhere around $75 to $100.
Oh gosh, no, it's much. What's the name of it?
In the Realms of Mystery and Wonder. If it's less than that, then let me pretend. If it's more than that, then go
No,
ahead.
I'm thinking it's going to be a lot more.
Maybe I shouldn't give it away. No, I'm going to give it to a patron. I'm not
Trade it for a Taylor Swift ticket.
No.
Mike, there's one online for $750.
Are you kidding me?
No,
No,
it's a centipede
these
press
kind of
book.
yeah, and they did a limited like 200 issue run.
Yeah.
And if you want to get any of Clark Ashton Smith's other drawings, you're relying on these paper books from the 1970s.
Well, I have so many things around here. Maybe I should give away something else if it's that much. I'm a poor man.
You can sell that, and then you can afford to go see Taylor Swift.
Yeah, hey Mike, if you sell it to me for $50, that'll give you some money, quick cash. You can go to the movies.
Well, you're a Patreon, right? You might win it.
I won't.
Alan.
Hello, Alan Hughes. I'm a artist, illustrator, and keeper of the e-zines movie and video game catalog.
Our guest today is author C.F. Page. If you want to Google him, that's how you do it. We'll just call him Jordan. Hey, man. Thanks for being here. How are you?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing good.
That's good. This is your first podcast ever, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, I did one radio show like 15 years ago, but I don't remember. It was about some novel that I wrote that sucked, and yeah, I mean, whatever.
Yeah. Certainly your first video interview.
Yeah.
You had to download Zoom for this, so.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Yeah.
This is.
Well, Jordan is the author of. I'm reading, almost finished now, Native Fear, and Interior Skies is a book that you edited.
Yes.
Yep. Orphans of the Attercosm, if I'm saying that right.
Yep.
And I like this quote about your writing from Felix Blackwell. By the way, everyone watching live, thank you for being here. Derek, I'll get back to you in a minute. Hector, I'm one of us. Mark, and everybody who hasn't, say hello on the live chat if you want. Page's writing is much like Lovecraft's oceans. Glassy smooth in places, terrifyingly brutal in others, ever dark and full of mystery. Attercosm seduces with its eerie wonders and horrifies with its glimpses beyond the veil, where fathomless revelations linger just beyond our comprehension. Those who read this collection will encounter Page's unique brand of literary madness. That's from Felix Blackwell's best-selling author of Stolen Tongues. I need to let my little cat out of his very comfortable little prison over there. He was trying to get my microphone. And Alan, would you start us off with what I told you to stop talking about before we went live? While I do this, thanks.
Sure. Well, we were talking
Come on,
about
little buddy. It's okay.
and the novel so much more, but we were
Come here,
discussing
little
how
buddy.
Resident
you.
Evil games seem to be part of the
Love you.
DNA of
Love
the
you.
book.
Yes, I
Yeah,
do. Come here.
definitely. You know, it was like I was very young when I started playing the Resident Evil games, and like it just like it just became part of my like DNA. Like everything I've written has a little bit of Resident Evil in it. Like I just can't help it. But yeah, the Native Fear was definitely influenced more
Hey,
by
I love you.
the seventh game in the franchise, Biohazard. But you know, I was also influenced by Jordan Peele's Get Out. What else? H.P. Lovecraft's The Color Out of Space. It's like a hodgepodge of different influences, but yeah, definitely video games, Bloodborne, like
I've
lots,
not
lots.
played that, but I've heard it's really great cosmic horror and a really hard
Oh,
game.
yeah, like for cosmic horror, like number one for me is Algernon Blackwood's The Willows, and like number two is Bloodborne. Like it's got a really good story. Like the lore is just really solid.
Have you played that, Alan?
I have.
Yeah.
I admit it's too tough for me though.
Hey, no, it's a tough game. It's definitely a tough game, but it's rewarding if you stick with it.
Yeah.
No,
One of those things. But no, I mean the Resident Evil games. It's so many of them. It's a house, a spooky location, and you know that's not just the video games. And you nailed that very well in Native Fear.
Thank you.
The Elkhorns, they're worthy of.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the thing with the just the like I wanted the Elkhorns to seem like just like an eccentric family at first, and then like okay, maybe they're kind of culty, and then okay, maybe spoiler, they might not be human, and then you know I sprinkle some cosmic horror and survival horror into the mix, but yeah, I mean the last like 50 pages is definitely Resident Evil inspired, like survival horror. Like he does the main character Ollie doesn't have many resources to survive, and he has to run. Doesn't have a gun, or he did, but then he lost it. Yeah.
well, all of our creative endeavors, whether we're a writer, artist, something else, we're all a hodgepodge of our influences, but it's the unique twist that we put on those, is what makes what we do, different from that. I'm sorry, I need to go back. I'll need to go back for a second. And Derek Austin Johnson, the writer Derek Austin Johnson, I chatted with him a while back, and did he meet you at a con? Were you guys already friends? And he said that you guys needed to come on the show or something like that, right?
Well, so Derek Austin Johnson was one of the writers in Anterior Skies, which is how I discovered him. Like he wrote a story called Prodigal, which was one of my favorite in the anthology, and yeah, we've just stayed friends ever since. So,
well, thanks to Derek for making this happen. And guys, just go to You can, I think it's just DerekAustinJohnson.com. Let me double check myself. It is DerekAustinJohnson.com, or just Google him. So yeah, I'm sorry. I just wanted to mention that. Anything else on the Resident Evil thing, you guys?
No, I don't think so. I think I pretty much covered all of that, you know.
So
But I mean, I've got a lot more influences than just
right,
that.
yeah, understood. But Alan does a really great job with the Lovecraft Easing website of keeping a list of cosmic horror video games.
Okay.
So yeah, it keeps it fresh and updated. So
I've not put the Resident Evil games on there. I don't think you wouldn't consider them cosmic horror, would you?
I
Not in the
would.
least. No.
Well, I mean, the seventh game was inspired by Lovecraft, but not any of the other games. Like,
yeah.
maybe a village a little bit, but you know,
yeah.
No, not really.
Well, this is I really enjoyed the foreword to Native Fear as well. Let me just read the first couple of sentences. Draft 0, titled Uncle Rust, was a 120,000 word extracosmic regurgitation from somewhere within or without my consciousness. A result of applying the Stephen King golden rule of writing 2,000 words a day, happy or sad, rain or shine. Uncle Rust was intent to capture on paper what exclusively swam around in my head. I didn't want to lifelessly mimic my favorite stories. Instead, and this is part that I highlighted, what I wanted was to forcibly apprehend an unreachable vista. That giddy feeling I get when I watch a movie or video game trailer, or the sensation of endless possibilities of pre-projected artful and storytelling mastery just by looking at a book cover or movie poster, and ultimately to craft a story that will make my reader feel how I feel about, and then you name a few stories and writers. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because I was reading that and I was just found myself nodding along, and I knew
Yeah.
that I know that feeling, so
Yeah, it's kind of weird because it's almost like having a nostalgia for something that doesn't exist. There is a word for it. I forgot what it is, but yeah, like for instance, whenever I start a new story, I might have an influence that like is not related. Like I might think to myself, I want to write something similar to, let's just say, Jeff Vandermeer's Annihilation,
right,
but not anything like it. Like just like I want the reader to get that vibe or whatever. You know, so that forward was just me kind of, you know, explaining that process.
right. No, I know what you mean. So you mentioned the 2,000 words a day, Stephen King golden rule, and of course every writer, every creator has their own schedule or what works for them to get words on paper. Talk about yours and how that's influenced you.
Well,
We have a lot of writers who watch and listen to the show, so I'm sure they'd be interested.
Yeah, so my thing is I wake up at like 2 or 3 in the morning and I write for, you know, an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, something like that. And that seems to be when I'm most creative. Like I just trust my instincts. Anything after that, like when it gets to like 6 a.m. or something like that, like I'm starting to force it, then like I have to stop. But
Lovecraft wrote something like you haven't you you don't know if you're a writer or not unless you've tried writing at night. I'm paraphrasing.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know Matt Carden writes a lot about like muses, like, and I seem to have like a time sensitive muse. Like for me, it's in the morning, and I think it's because I'm too tired to overthink, and I use a lot of my instinct, and like because throughout the day, like when I'm at work, I'm like writing in my head. So like, and in the morning I'm fresh. I've got my coffee. You know, I write sometimes only like 500 words, but they're usually quality words.
Yeah.
And like Native Fear was the transition of like writing 2,000 words a day, and then like because I rewrote it from the ground up. Like it's a completely different novel than Uncle Rust. But yeah, that's part of the process. And then a
You're
lot of,
just sorry to interrupt, but you're not second guessing yourself because you're too tired. That reminds me of the write drunk, edit sober thing, you know. So
yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, so yeah, that's part of the process. And I think, well, it's kind of like sports, I think, because I used to play basketball. You know, you practice so you don't have to overthink when you're actually playing a game. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and I think it's kind of like that. But then there's also the editing process, which like, because sometimes I'll have like a writer's block, and my process is I'll just start revising from the very beginning and then like work my way through, and then usually I know what I'm gonna write once I get to the end, and that helps it be pretty polished too, because like I'm like revising the first chapter like 10 times or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then reading a lot too. So like, I mean,
Yeah.
that's like a cliche, but like I read a lot, and I
Cliche
read.
because it's true, you know.
Oh yeah, but I also read slow, and I read to like dissect the sentences, and you know, I punctuation, like what authors use, the Oxford comma, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know, I really pay attention to that, and yeah, like my prose is kind of like my thing, and sometimes I have to learn not to like just write a pretentious passage and like, you know, chill out sometimes.
Pete, did you have to go dance to a Taylor Swift song or something? Is that why you left us for a minute?
No, I'm not going to tell you why I left you for a
Okay.
minute.
All right.
Had
I
to
just
take a shit,
assumed it
didn't you?
was.
Personally,
I assumed
but
it
I
was
could hear
Taylor
everything that
Swift.
you guys said. No.
I assumed it was Taylor Swift related,
So
but
what we didn't talk about early, well, yes, I guess maybe did. Yeah, my wife and kids are throwing a Taylor Swift party. Now I'm not invited, but that's okay.
mhm. All right.
Right. Apparently Mike just wants to use that as an icebreaker to, make conversation here.
Well,
Hey,
I
Pete,
actually wanted to use it as to tell all of you guys to jump in with questions too. So,
Pete, just shake it off.
Yeah,
is that a song?
it
I
is.
understood that reference.
6 months ago, you guys, in our private easy chat, I asked you guys who Taylor Swift was, and I could just feel you guys shaking your heads from hundreds of miles away. So
Yeah.
I know who she is now, though.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I'm learning. I'm learning about your world, Pete.
It's not my world.
Yeah. Anyway, so back to Mr. Page here. Regarding Native Fear, this is a really good cosmic horror novel. You guys should, speaking to the audience, you guys should check this out. It's on Kindle Unlimited, by the way. It's also available in print. Here's a couple of reviews on Amazon. It took me a minute or two. That's not the one I want. Oh yeah, there was a lot going on, but it all weaved together and was intriguing and terrifying. And here's another review that I was trying to get to. I read this book months ago, and I still think about it all the time. this is one of those books where you read it to find out what happens, and then read it again so you can figure out what happened. It is mind bending in the best possible way. The writing is absolutely superb. I'm so eager to read more from CF Page. Absolutely 5 stars for me. So I don't know if you found that review or not, but to have someone keep thinking about it months later, that's a huge compliment.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I at the very beginning I obsessed over reviews, but like now I feel like it'll either inflate my ego or deflate it, and I don't really want that. Plus, I'm my biggest critic, so I pretty much know what people are gonna say, or I think I do.
Yeah.
So,
Some people will like it, some people will love it, and
oh yeah.
then you always get or often you get the classic 1-star review. Did not arrive on time and it was torn. 1 star.
Oh,
So tell us what Native Fear is about. Without spoilers, but what's the synopsis?
well, the synopsis is that a young man, he, dang, there's like so many spoilers. I don't,
Yeah.
because like there's like this twist gives away that and that. Like I got a 5-star review in Scream magazine, and the reviewer said like it's best not knowing anything about it. And
In fact, I noticed on your Amazon synopsis, there is no synopsis. It's just all blurbs, which I thought was smart.
well, my opinion is that the synopsis is kind of generic. A guy runs away from home because he did something bad, and then he winds up with the Elkhorns, and then gradually he like uncovers their secrets. It sounds generic, and the synopsis is, but like it evolves into something else. Like it starts off as a folk horror,
Yeah.
then it becomes more cosmic, and then like survival horror. Like it constantly evolves. That's why like people would ask me like beta readers or whatever, like if there was cannibalism in it, and I'm like, well, I mean that's a spoiler, so I mean, eh,
If
okay.
if you don't immediately say no, then assume yes. But
Yeah.
yeah, at the beginning, it's quite the horrific jump right into things. This guy, um, it's really I want to know how you came up with this or why, because this guy is in this town because he's really religious. He goes to church all the time, and his pastor sends the congregation on a mission to put their finger on at a point in the map, and then go and tell them the good word. And then
Yeah.
this guy does that, and man, did he put his finger on the wrong place on the map.
Yeah. Well, so my ex-wife was from I would say like a cult church.
Yeah,
So I mean they were not just a normal like Christian Protestant church, but like the members of the church would look in your shopping cart, see if there was alcohol. You had to get permission to like hang out with people like from the church, outside of church.
I've heard of
So
those.
yeah, so I took well, and then one of the youth pastors. I don't think they'll watch this, so I'm fine talking about this. But like a woman from the church, uh, like didn't call him pastor, so he slapped her. And
And
this
who?
is a youth pastor. Yeah, yeah. So it's like a cult kind of.
Oh, it
So
is. There are all kinds of cults, and some of them um, are quote unquote Christian cults.
yeah.
You know?
So yeah, I took influence from or her experience. So yeah, not to say that that guy was a like culty, but he was just you know, one of those people that
If
would
he
go,
slapped her, we can go ahead and say it. He was an asshole. So
yeah, but yeah,
you're a nice guy, Jordan.
yeah. I forgot what I was saying, but
Not that guy's culty. Well, so this is the kind of church that this guy resides in or goes to,
yeah.
is what you're saying.
Oh yeah, I guess I just knew people like that would do something extraordinary just because their pastor told them to. So that was the seed
Sure.
of inspiration there, you know. Like I knew people like that. Like there was this one guy who went to school for like makeup or like, you know, like movie effects and stuff like that. And he donated like $10,000 so the church could make a movie, you know. So, you know, like I just knew people like that. So, you know.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Um, more than you know. Um, so yeah, we can't say too much about native fear, except that there are definitely elements
I
of
can
cosmic horror. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I could talk about like influences, I
Sure.
guess. Because like I pitched it as Jordan Peele's Get Out meets John Carpenter's The Thing. Now you could also say Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Um, but yeah, it's very much uh, you know, Resident Evil towards the end. Stephen King too. Like Stephen King was my first like influence. Like I spent like 5 years like reading every Stephen King book when I was uh 19 years old, I think. Because I did not read in school. Like my first book was when I was 18. So so I've had some catching up to do in
That
my
that's interesting to me. Paul
well,
Paul Tremblay was somewhat similar. Um,
yeah.
what you didn't read in school until about when you turned 18, and what turned you on to reading? Was it a particular book? Was it King? Um,
Well, so I always knew that I liked storytelling. Like when I was a kid, I was probably 8 years old, and I remember my mom and I and my dad were driving somewhere, and I was pitching my mom a sequel to Jaws, and she told me like, maybe one day you can be a movie director, and so like I wanted to be a director for a long time. I actually went to school for filmmaking, and
oh wow.
yeah, so like movies and video games were my first passion. I always assumed that like they didn't make books for me. Like I didn't like I was more into sci-fi horror, and this was like before internet was accessible. Like
Yeah.
my family lived in the country, so I couldn't Google, you know, the best horror novels similar to Resident Evil or anything like that. So
What
I
year
just
did you graduate from high school?
uh 2007.
Okay.
But yeah, like my family didn't we had dial up for like when I was in high school or something like that. So, yeah. But yeah, I the first novel I read was I think it was Stephen King's The Stand, and then that kind of hooked me. And then it was I think Cormac McCarthy's The Road, and
Yeah.
then Watchmen, graphic novel, but you know, there's a lot of words. And then I just started reading everything. And then I did go to school for filmmaking, but I was working on novels like on the side, you know. And yeah, I mean, my first few novels were terrible. Actually, my first six novels, but you know, I kept on trying, and you know, I pretty much taught myself how to write. You know, like I wasn't a great student. Like like my teacher said I was a good writer, like creatively speaking, just not grammatically speaking. So, you know, it was a work in progress.
Well, this is a very good book, and it's visceral. It really pulls you in. You are a good writer, really a great writer. So you got there. Um, the
Hopefully.
Sorry.
I said hopefully, hopefully.
Well,
I'm still learning too.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, but I have this review up from TBM Horror about native fear, and just if I can convince the audience to read this book, I really want to. This is on TBM Horror, and it's by Tobin Elliott. Okay, there we go. There's enough other reviews on Amazon and Goodreads that fill you in more on plot and character. Skipping ahead, this ain't your standard horror read. Page is a singularly unique writer. Mentions in a kind of a Stephen King, Lovecraft, Thomas Ligotti way, if they were also a touch OCD and ADD. Page wears a lot of influences on his sleeve, and they show up on the page. However, that being said, despite the obvious influences, he's developed his own very unique style of telling a story. For me, I will say I find it intensely readable. And this talks about that it just really pulled him into where he forgot he was reading almost, if that makes sense. So yeah, I don't know if you come across that one, but it's a very good review. So
Yeah, I didn't read it, but I know it exists.
well, it's on Kindle Unlimited. Talk to me about your other books. Talk to me about the book you edited, the anthology. Let's start there.
So yeah, Anterior Skies was an anthology of weird and cosmic horror. There really wasn't a theme, but like I collected. I mean, there were even some poems in there too. But yeah, I just I felt like editing would help me like break my plateau. Because I think writing is a lot of editing too. Like you have to be a good editor to whatever. But yeah, so yeah, I paid 1 cent per word. I couldn't afford it, but I still paid it. And yeah, I met a lot of good authors, including Derek Austin Johnson. Then there's Richard Beauchamp, which like he's one of my favorite newer authors right now. There's Aleko Julius, Pedro Iniguez. So yeah, I mean, I've met a lot of good authors doing that.
What were you looking for? What did you tell the writers when you invited them to the anthology? What did you say? This is kind of the story I'm looking for.
Well, I wanted outside of the box stories. I'm more of a I like stories that have atmosphere, like Thomas Ligotti, or like recently I discovered Matthew M. Bartlett.
Sure.
Like with him, it's like it's more about atmosphere than a story. Like I don't like a beginning, middle, and end. I kind of like, you know, um, non-linear stories, abstract stuff, and I encourage like don't give me like a normal like story, like
Right.
you know, uh, yeah. I mean,
Have you gotten to as you mentioned you have catching up to do, and um, yeah, I feel like I'm still catching up, and all of our TBR piles are also huge, right? But
yeah.
have you gotten to Ted Klein? Have you read Dark Gods yet? Because it seems like that would be something that you'd really like if you haven't gotten to it yet.
I told my parents that I wanted uh the collection for my birthday coming up. So I
Oh,
haven't read them.
wow.
Yeah, because I think there's a new edition that just came
Yeah,
out that was like
there is.
$100 or something like that. So
I
that
think you'll find that a real treat.
yeah.
That's probably my favorite collection out there.
Yeah. Mark, you were going to send that to me later, I think you said, if I gave you a good blurb.
I'll send you something.
But yes, it
something dark.
I've heard that's a really great addition. For those who can't afford it, it's on Kindle now too.
Wait, Mark, nice. You're going to give him something? I gave you a blurb for free.
Oh, I've got something coming to you too.
Oh.
Does he want it?
Yeah. Do I need to get a shot first?
You might.
Yeah.
Yeah. So go on about that anthology, Jordan. We skip around a lot around here. Sorry.
Oh no. I mean, I did get to have a short email exchange with Thomas Ligotti, just like a couple sentences, because I was so bold as to ask him if he could write an introduction. He said no, but he also, responded to me. So
yeah,
that was cool.
That's nice.
So it was really hard work revising and editing, and I probably overstepped my boundaries a few times as an editor. But I think most of the people enjoyed the process, and I learned quite a bit from all the writers. I remember Derek Austin Johnson teaching me some stuff. I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't know that. So yeah, it was a learning experience for me.
He's a nice guy. Yeah. He really is.
Yeah, he's been very supportive of me, and yeah, I mean, this is why why I'm here.
So Strange Elf Press published it. I don't think I've heard of that.
That's me.
I figured. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like the name, Strange Elf.
Thank you. Well, my film company was Work Elf Productions, so I kind of just made a variation of that. Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, nothing.
I was just going to say, speaking of film, what was the deciding factor? What made you go, I thought I was going to maybe be a filmmaker or a director, but no, I want to be a writer. When and how did that happen?
Well, I mean, it was kind of more like I had a falling out with my director friend, so and then I just focused on my writing. But I mean, we did quite a bit. We made a Resident Evil fan film called Red Falls, which I think right now has 2.5 million views on YouTube.
Wow. It's called Red Falls?
Red Falls, okay. Yeah. It's 50 minutes long. It took us a year to make. We just had volunteers. We spent money out of our own pocket. We didn't make any money, but it was fun.
I mean, money is great, right? I'll take money if someone wants to send it to me, and as will most of us. But also, creating just for the sake of creating, there's something so pure and wonderful about that,
Yeah. Well, I was hoping it would open some doors, like maybe Capcom, which is the developer of Resident Evil. I was hoping maybe they'd have us make a commercial for a game or something like that. But yeah, it just in Michigan filmmaking's pretty hard, so we just kind of fizzled out. But my friend, we have rekindled our relationship kind of, and apparently he's gonna adapt one of my screenplays into a film with him and his producer friend. So
wow,
we'll see what happens. Yeah,
that's nice.
Yeah.
And that's been known to happen. People make a film like that and they do get noticed. It can happen, and it doesn't necessarily happen right away either. Somebody can be watching YouTube 10 years later. Go ahead, Pete. I'm sorry. Whoever it was.
Michigan has a great spot in horror film history.
Oh yeah, like Sam Raimi. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean
it does. Yeah.
So don't blow off Michigan. Michigan's got a good place.
That's what I was going to ask. What does rural Michigan bring to your? It's such a big part of native fear. What does rural Michigan bring to your work?
Well, it's the only place I know. So, you write what you know, and I know Michigan. But that it's just part of me. Although my next novel it takes place in Tennessee. So, I'm switching it up a little bit. But yeah, it just, I know Michigan. So,
When will that be out? Roughly.
no idea. Okay, so I have one novel that is going to get published by Trueborn Press next year, at the end of the year. That one is called The Swallowed Town. And I've had reviewers compare it to Twin Peaks meets the Southern Reach trilogy. It's weird. It's an analog horror. It's pretty short, but I just finished a new novel recently, and like I don't know, like I want to try to get a literary agent for that one because I think it's my best. So I'm still working on it, like as far as like feedback and whatnot.
That's great. And then you have a collection out, Orphans of the Attercosm, a collection side A. Talk about that title first.
Okay. Well, it's right here. So Orphans of the Attercosm. I don't know where the title came from. I just thought that Attercosm sounded cool. So it stuck. It stuck. Originally, so there's only like I think 6 short stories in it. But yeah, mostly cosmic horror, Legadian sort of influenced. One of my short stories was published in an anthology called Rampage on the Reef. Yeah. And yeah, it just, these are just the short stories that I've written in the past 3 years. And I don't write too many short stories. I'm more of a novel guy, but yeah, it's actually going to be part of the short smack on Books of Horror on Facebook, which is like a contest. So readers get to vote on their favorite short story collections, novellas, or I think anthologies. So if you're part of Books of Horror, vote for Orphans and read it, people.
Where do people find that on Facebook? Just
it's a Facebook group called Books of Horror.
Okay.
You join it, and yeah, I think it's the biggest like community on.
Yeah, there's like 50,000
yeah,
people or so, I think.
Yeah, like 56. But I think that's how like I want to say that's how Felix Blackwell like blew up. I think it was that group, and I'm pretty sure Nick Roberts too. Like you get a lot of exposure on that Facebook group.
And one more time, I just want to write this down. What's the name of it? Books of Horror?
Yes.
Okay.
And the contest is called Short Smack.
Books of Horror, Short Smack. Okay.
Yeah.
The Alan, what would you say to someone about native fear? You want to tell them what it's about, or get them reading this. What would you say?
I'd just say read it. As we said earlier, I don't want to say too much, but it's read the if anything, read the cold open. Read the cold open, and if you're not hooked by that, then I don't know why you're reading horror.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal. Yeah, for sure. What about What are some of the movies that influenced you? Besides, talk about that.
Ooh. Well,
So we talked about video games and books a bit, but yeah.
yeah. So when other kids my age, when other boys my age were collecting Ninja Turtles and like Hot Wheels, like I was into Alien versus Predator toys. So like Alien was like the first movie that really inspired me. And then it was John Carpenter's The Thing. I was like really young when I watched that, but yeah, it made a big impact on me. Um, and then like 28 Days Later is one of my favorite films, even though it hasn't had much influence on my writing, but I really love that more from a filmmaking perspective. Uh, heck, Jordan Peele, like in recent years, Jordan Peele has had a big impact on me. And Christopher Nolan, Tarantino, and in fact, Quentin Tarantino inspired the sort of the story structure from Native Fear because he does a lot of non-linear stuff, and I kind of was inspired by that. And then True Detective has had a big impact on me, especially season one. Yeah. So, what else? I'm looking at my notes right now. Oh, The Leftovers. It's a TV show, but heck, it's like probably in my top 3 shows.
I've seen that. I've come across that now and again, but I've never sat down to watch it.
It's kind of like Twin Peaks, kind of weird, but whereas Twin Peaks, the characters act strange, The Leftovers, the characters act like how you would react. Like weird things happen and they're reacting appropriately. But yeah, it's about a one day, like 10% of the population just vanishes. And after that, like there's like weird cults and like there's a lot going on, but it's one of the best shows I've ever seen. But yeah, that's had a big influence on the types of stories I write.
With The Leftovers, the weird things that happen, is it just the fact that these people have disappeared, or do other inexplicable things happen in the
Well,
show as
so the main character, his name is Kevin Garvey, and his dad has like schizophrenia or something like that. So he doesn't know if like he's going crazy or if the world's going crazy. Like in the first episode, like he's going on a run at like a jog, and out of nowhere, like a dog comes up to him. You know, he's petting it, and some guy shoots the dog and then just drives away. It's pretty brutal, but no explanation. It just weird things happen. It all kind of makes sense in the end, but and then there's a cult that they don't speak, they wear white, and they smoke cigarettes, and they just like harass people by like watching them smoking cigarettes, and
wow.
But then in
would be disconcerting.
Yeah, I know. In season 2 and 3, it gets a lot more like Twin Peaks, where there's like a parallel reality. It's weird. It's weird. I recommend watching it.
All right.
It like I kind of get like Dark Tower vibes from it because Damon Lindelof, who also did Lost, he wrote the show. And yeah, there's some Stephen King in the DNA for sure.
Well, you've talked me into watching it, but I don't know how much knowing somebody from Lost is part of it. That's not a plus for me personally, because I think they really dropped the ball on that one, but it sounds like they did not on this one.
Yeah, I mean it's only one of the writers from Lost, but at the same time, he also wrote Ridley Scott's Prometheus, and which was kind of, I liked it, but it was kind of a mess at the same time. So,
it was.
Yeah.
Have you seen
the Watchmen TV show?
Oh, did he?
Yeah. Which
okay. Well, then
I'm good with that.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, yeah, Watchmen. Yep.
Have you seen the TV show From, Jordan?
I've seen bits and pieces.
Yeah.
Or I've seen season 1.
Seen season 1. That's what I've seen.
I've quit season 2 after season 2. It's just
doesn't go anywhere.
It doesn't go anywhere, and if it looks like it's going to go somewhere in season 3, but you had me for 2 seasons and you didn't do anything.
I agree.
So, yeah. And just a note, The Leftovers is based on a novel by Tom Perrotta, who helped write the first episode. But yeah, it's based on his novel, The Leftovers.
Okay, that's good to know.
So,
who else here has seen The Leftovers? Anyone? Beeler?
I've watched some of it.
What'd you think, Alan? Think I'd like it?
How many seasons did it run?
3 seasons.
3 seasons. It's HBO, so it's short. I had a lot of disagreements with, or a lot of questions about the weirdness. Would society, how society kind of reacted to this event, but it's an interesting show.
Okay, I'll check it out. Anything else, guys? Yeah, Derek just posted in the live chat. I'm in just based on the premise alone. So, there you go. Well, you've already talked about what's coming next for you. I think that might be all I got. I did want to ask you if where did the interest in horror come from? If you know, we don't all of us don't really know sometimes where it came from. Yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Anything weird happened to you in your life that you can't explain?
Well, if anything happened, I don't remember it. But no, I've just been into morbid, dark stuff like my whole life. So
yeah,
you're
just weird like the rest of us here on the show and watching, right? So weird and proud of it. Well, guys, you really do need to check out Native Fear. It is a really good. It's in the wheelhouse of everyone watching this, so and listening to this. So check it out. Alan's read it too. You really enjoyed it. So it is. I grant you a difficult book to talk about because you basically just want to say to somebody, "Oh, you like cosmic horror? You like horror in general? Okay, here, just read this book, and that's all I'm going to say. You need to read it." So
yeah, and it's 500 pages too. So
well, thanks for being here. Usually in the second hour we talk about just various and sundry other horror things. So you're welcome to hang out with us, or if you need to go, that's totally cool too. But guys, again, it's available on Kindle Unlimited. Native Fear by C.F. Page. Derek says check out The Swallowed Town when it's published. Solid follow-up. So there you go, Jordan. So anyway, you're welcome to hang around if you want to, or if you need to go, that's fine too.
I'll hang around.
All right. What, Alan, you had some stuff to talk about too. We can start with you.
Oh, 2 anthology shows came out this week. They had both led off with cosmic horror episodes.
Really?
Yeah. American Horror Stories. It had one.
The plural.
Yeah.
Okay.
The anthology show. Yeah, the first episode was called Backrooms, and it referenced the internet phenomenon of the backrooms.
Oh, wow.
Didn't care for it too much, but
I was about to write it down, but never mind.
it's just fascinating concept, but the story that they bring to it, it didn't work for me. Now there's a new show on. Well, I watched it on Amazon, but I think you have to add on the screen box. It's called Tales from the Void.
Okay.
And that uses it adapts stories from the No Sleep page on Reddit.
Oh wow.
And they it's kind of a low budget Canadian show, but they interview the authors afterwards. That was really nice.
Yeah, that is interesting. That's a different take on what a lot of people do with no sleep.
Yeah. And the first episode was a really good cosmic horror. It was about a black void, a black box just appears outside of this apartment complex. And it doesn't move, it doesn't react, and it's just about how it affects the lives of the people living in the apartment complex.
Almost sounds a little bit like Kathy Koja's book, I mean, with a different twist. Sorry, what's the name of that book?
Cipher?
Cipher, right. I always think Fun Hole, because it's what she calls it. So
There's a throwaway line where in a Doctor Who episode where the Doctor ponders what would happen if like he got separated from the TARDIS for an extended period of time and it just sat someplace on a planet
yeah, I like
and
that a lot.
and builds up there's a whole cult following worshiping it as a god, even though it does nothing.
Yeah, I really liked him reminiscing about what would happen if the TARDIS didn't come back to him. That's in that one of my favorite episodes with David Tennant coming back. I forget which number he is.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a David Tennant thing, but it's in the rewind. Yeah.
Yeah, what's the name of that episode? I thought that was probably one of the most.
I don't remember.
Yeah, it's cosmic horror for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, well, someone says the HP on the live chat says the HP Lovecraft Historical Society movies, The Call of Cthulhu and The Whisperer in Darkness are finally available on Tubi for streaming. So that's good to know.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I watched this week something called Gods of the Deep.
Oh yes.
Do not watch this. Please.
We just saved you a lot of time, people.
Yes, it's a Cthulhu monster. It's a Cthulhu mythos story. Yes, it's one of the characters works at Miskatonic University. No, do not waste your time. I really wish it had been, but just a modicum better, Alan.
The guy that played the submarine captain, he actually could be good in a
yeah,
in a real movie.
Yeah, put it in something real, but everybody else, it was
just so bad. It just
oh my gosh.
And I like the idea that you don't explain everything.
Gotta be done right though.
You have to explain some things. And then there were whole scenes that were just seemed lifted from other classic horror movies. And just unabashedly lifted, and you could see the influences.
Somebody wrote, "Oh God, I saw it. What a terrible day to have eyes," on the live chat.
It's not good.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's that.
Yeah. Also, Donna mentioned this on the live chat. The Devil's Hour season 2, I guess, is really good. I've only seen season 1.
I love the Devil's Hour season 1, and I turned you on to that.
Yeah, you did.
I think that's a really, really good time travel horror story.
Is it time travel?
Yeah, it's something.
It's something is more accurate.
Time travel is the easiest explanation.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm
it's very
looking
good.
forward to season 2. So I just have to find some time to watch it.
Plus, it's Peter Capaldi.
Oh,
How can you
yeah,
not
yeah.
watch it?
I rewatched Lair of the White Worm the other day.
Never seen it.
No, you've never seen it? It's a very young Peter Capaldi.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And Hugh Grant.
And Hugh Grant.
Yes.
Donna
So,
says season 2 is great in caps. So I guess
right.
we need to. What's that on? It's on Prime, isn't it?
I think it's Prime. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Alan, did you get Batman Resurrection?
I did not.
Batman Resurrection is out. There's a new Batman novel. It's a sequel to the 1989 Batman. So,
Is it who wrote? Is it did Sam Hamm write it, or is it?
no, Sam didn't write it. Somebody I don't know. Let's see. I'll tell you. Batman Resurrection, written by John Jackson Miller. So, I think he's written a lot of genre stuff. I don't know. But anyway, I haven't read it yet, but I guess it's getting good reviews. And how often do you get a new Batman novel? You know,
We could get Michael Keaton to read the audiobook. That would be.
there is an audiobook. It's not Michael
Yeah.
Keaton though. So I did use one of my credits to get it on audio.
Okay.
So, yeah. Oh, before I forget, this past week, this has been a busy week. For those of you who missed it, I interviewed Richard Chismar on Friday, and I interviewed Richard Thomas on Friday. And they're both really
John
good
Boy?
interviews. Huh? No, it's
John
not
Boy?
John Boy, and that's the third time I've heard that joke since then. In fact, the second time I heard it, he was the one telling it. So, yeah, Rich has got a new book out. Well, what's the date? The 20th? It's coming out in 2 days, called Memorials, and it's really good. Yeah, it's set in 1983, which is good. We were talking about on the interview about not having Google and a cell phone and everything instant, at your fingertips. It's hard to get lost anymore, and setting it back then that's one of the reasons why he said it back then. I'm not going to do this.
We've talked about this with Dennis Lehane and Shutter
Yeah.
Island.
In fact, I gave him your example on that. Yeah, because he started writing it in the present day. Lehane did, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's the internet and cell phones just make everything, gives you everything at your fingertips, and you can search for anything and get information on anything.
Yeah.
Unless you're going to pull what I like to think of as the Star Trek, the teleporters aren't working, or your cell phone's not working, or the internet's down.
Rich mentioned, yeah, he goes, there's always the old standby about I don't have I'm not getting any bars on my phone, but
yeah,
I was like, that's such a cop out though, isn't it? I mean, maybe in the year 2000 it was less so. But sorry,
there was a whole show, a Scandinavian show, I think it was called White Spot or Black Hole or something like that, about a town that had no internet service, and
that's
had no cell
different, though.
service. Yeah,
that's interesting.
They created that as the center basis of their issue, that they were so remote and surrounded by mountains, so that they wouldn't have to deal with that situation.
1983, 3 students from a small college embark on a week-long road trip to film a documentary on roadside memorials for their American Studies class. The project starts out as a fun adventure with long stretches of empty road and nightly campfires where they begin to open up with one another. But as they venture deeper into the Appalachian, did I say that right? Appalachian backwoods, the atmosphere begins to darken. Dun dun dun. They notice more and more of the memorials feature a strange, unsettling symbol, hinting at a sinister secret. Paranoia sets in when it appears that they are being followed. Their vehicle is tampered with overnight. Some of the locals appear to be anything but welcoming. Before long, the students can't help but wonder if these roadside deaths were really random accidents or is something terrifying at work here. So it's out on Tuesday. I really enjoyed it, honestly. So, and he also wrote those two Boogeyman books. You remember those? Um, Beware the Boogeyman and Becoming the Boogeyman, where, and we talked about that a little bit too. In those books, Beware the Boogeyman is really interesting because Richard Chismar is the protagonist. You know, fictional and he said there are people Googling that thought it was real and everything, and he goes, you know, you like that, and those are interesting books too. So, but yeah, pre-order Memorials, and it's going to be on Audible too. So, so yeah, check that out, guys. Memorials, Richard Chismar, and then Richard Thomas and I were talking about some of his work, and he told me a really interesting story. He went to Transylvania sometime the last recent few years on a writing thing, and some interesting stories of being in Transylvania. So this one, they actually made this part into a short on the YouTube channel, but they, I guess he and a couple of friends climb up this hill, and it's pretty steep. By the time they get to the top, it's dark, and they wave back down to the people um, down on the ground, and then it takes them a while to get back down because they have to crab walk. It's so steep. And when they got down, their friend said to him, who is that up there with you? There were two sets of red eyes that we saw. Who was that up with you? So pretty
Well,
cool.
that's always fun.
Oh yeah. So yeah, so check out both of those interviews if you missed watching them live, and of course I'll have it all on audio sometime soon. So what are you guys reading and watching?
All right.
You already
So
told me what you're watching and not to watch it, but
no. So as part of the day job, I'm processing a whole bunch of metadata, and it's just mind-numbingly boring.
mhm,
So I've been really into podcasts and listening to podcasts, and I'm into the second season of the Magnus Archives, also known as the Magnus Protocols.
mhm.
Really good. They're about 10 to 20-minute long episodes. Each one's a standalone story, but there's an overarching narrative. Um, and I'm really enjoying it. It was annoying. It was kind of annoying at first, but as the story is going on, I've come to really enjoy it.
Annoyment
Um,
turned into enjoyment.
so the premise of the story is because they don't have a big cast and they don't have a lot of money. So this guy is going through basically 200 years of documents written by people who claim to have had paranormal experiences, and he's putting them onto tape. So he's reading those stories.
Okay.
So it was kind of annoying to me that you couldn't just get somebody else to read this. Um, but then it all sort of, because they didn't have a lot of cash and there's a premise they're working on, it makes sense and it works. And um eventually they do start bringing other people to read their stories.
I
So
don't know where, but I have heard that it's a really good podcast. Yeah.
I've really enjoyed it. And in fact, I miss not listening to it every day on the weekends. But I can go through 5 or 6 episodes a day, uh, processing stupid data.
How many
So,
episodes do they have?
I think I was up to episode 40. So
Hmm.
that was like at the beginning of season 2. So yeah, there's a lot there. There's a lot of content. My only complaint is that there's like 5 to 7 minutes of commercials up front, and then there's 5 to 7 minutes of commercials at the end. But you can blow through those very quickly.
Oh, Chaz is asking what it's called. It's called the Magnus Archives, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's called the Magnus Archives, but every once in a while they'll do promos for it and they'll call it the Magnus Protocols.
Okay.
And so I think maybe there was a name change coming over from Britain to here. But
You might have to use the Google.
yeah. But yes, I really enjoyed it, and it's a slow burn, but trust me, it all comes together.
Okay. Well, that's
So
good to know because sometimes these things don't. They're not
yes.
sure where they're going and they never
Yep.
get there. You know.
Yeah.
What else?
Anyway, that's what I'm listening to. And I'm not reading right now because I'm writing way too much.
And you're watching your usual quality of
Yes,
movies.
absolutely. I'm currently watching VHS The Beyond. VHS is this horrible little anthology series. Alan's watched it, I know.
There's a lot of them, isn't there?
There's a lot of them. They're basically found footage films, but they're strung together. Most of them are not good, but
watchable.
they're watchable.
Yeah,
they're nice background noise. So,
Do you watch them when
yes,
you're writing?
I do.
Wow, I don't know how you do that.
I know exactly. I trained myself to do that. And I'll tell you how.
Tell us.
Many,
Educate us,
many,
Pete. Educate us.
many years ago, when I was just a wee nipper and I was starting to write, I was also going through a divorce and I did not want to be at home. So I would leave work with a laptop and I would go to a bar and I would type and work at the bar till like 2 in the morning. And then I would come home and go to sleep and get up and do it all the next day.
Did you
So I
drink?
would work
Did you drink at the bar, or were you drinking coffee?
it was a coffee bar.
Oh, okay.
So, which is actually where, I first learned to like coffee. I did not drink coffee up until that point.
How old was this? Your first divorce? Were you 17, 18, something like that?
I think it was my second divorce. Yes, my second divorce.
Okay.
Just thanks for, digging in there for me.
Sure.
That's what we pay you for, right?
It's the details that matter, Pete.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I would like get dinner, go to the bar, listen to a band, from like 8 till 2 in the morning. So that's what 6 hours of writing, but you have to do it. You're surrounded by noise and people. And
Well, if it blends into white noise, that's one thing. That's doable for me. But if it's like a movie and that's what I hear is that dialogue, then it's not.
who is it? Bridget and I have talked about this.
Hmm.
One of the things that horror movies do, particularly horror movies, is the pitch of music changes when something important happens.
Yeah.
So you can use that as a way to it's sort of like a telegraph. So you can use that to know when to look up and look at the film. It's just, yeah, it's just something I've noticed, and it really helps me watch. Because honestly, it's movies these days are like football. It's 4 hours on 3 to 4 hours on the screen, but it's really only 18 minutes of play. So, most movies are filler. There's only very specific scenes that are important.
That's true, but if it's done right, the filler adds so much
Then you
atmosphere and
then then you get
characterization.
into it. Yes. But mostly the movies that Alan and I choose to watch. You know?
Yeah. What's everybody else reading?
I'm reading Joe Lansdale's new collection. I think it's all reprints, but it's his Lovecraftian.
Oh, right, the Mad
Yeah.
Mountains.
Yeah, in the Mad Mountains.
What's the TOC in that?
8 stories, or is it
Yeah.
10? Let me check. Maybe 10, but at least 8. The Bleeding Shadow, Dread Island, The Gruesome Affair of the Electric Blue Lightning,
Okay.
Tall Grass, The Case of the Stalking Shadow, Starlight, Eyes Bright, and In the Mad Mountains.
Okay. All right.
So there's a few in there I don't have.
Yeah, that's what I've been meaning to get it, but yeah, there's a few there that I don't have.
So, and watch Hellboy, The Crooked Man.
How was that? It looked awful. The trailer.
It's not awful.
It's
It's actually decently good. I mean, it's not a big budget movie, but it doesn't have to be for the story it's telling.
What is it telling? I can't remember the
It's
trailer.
it's a folk horror, witches in the Appalachian Mountains.
Oh, right. They're like in the 50s. Did they time
Yes.
travel back there, or is it just set in the 50s?
No, Hellboy has been around since World War II,
Oh, right.
and it's just a story from the BPRD in the 1950s, and it begins with a train crash. It's like a Doctor Who story. Hellboy and his companion just end up in this remote location and fight the baddie of the week.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Jordan, you were talking about earlier about how you said you read slow because I think you said you're thinking about it and
Yeah, like I'm analyzing it.
right.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I was gonna just touch on this briefly anyway, but I can't say enough about Obsidian. I guess you could call it a note-taking app, but that's like almost like saying cars are for sitting in and listening to the radio. Um, think of if you build up your own private internet is one way to think of it. And so you can see how that can encompass so many different things. And each person's Obsidian will be something very different than someone else's. It's free. And I use one of the things that I use Obsidian for is I've got a plugin that whenever you guys know how I like to highlight in Kindle books. Whenever I highlight in a Kindle book, it automatically gets recorded in Obsidian. And so I've got a day what they call a daily note thing too, and like I'll be like I start reading. I'm reading a book called Cannon Bridge right now by Jonathan Barnes. So if I do some highlighting, or if I start the book, I'll note the time, which you can do quite easily just with a button, and then I'll write down my thoughts about it. So I guess my point is I tend to stop a lot too, and I'll write down what I'm thinking about it at the time. You can hyperlink to the book, not on the web, but it hyperlinks to all of the Kindle highlights of that book. So I've got like hundreds of Obsidian pages of just books alone, and each one has what I've personally highlighted in, on those pages. It's really cool, and I don't know if I'm doing a very good job of describing it, but if you like to take notes, journal, whatnot, it's a really good. It works out really well. There's a little bit of a learning curve, but it's not bad. So, Alan, have you used it? Are you familiar with it?
I have not used it. I am familiar with it. I was a big Evernote user, and then
Yeah.
that got a lot worse. So I've kind of been looking for something to replace it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really good. I really like it a lot. So anyway, for what that's worth, if you're like Jordan and me and you take forever when you're reading because you're looking stuff up and you're thinking about stuff, then this might be because it's a journal for me too. Like I said, it there's a daily note that it spits out at you once a day, and then you take your notes on that. Um, you can create new Obsidian pages anytime you want. But for me, when I'm journaling my life, it's not just about, "Oh, this happened today." It's much more about, this is what I'm reading, this is what I'm thinking about, you know, and I'm writing down all of those things. You can even forward, there are a lot of different community plugins. You can forward emails to it. And so that email is always in Obsidian. So I can say something like, I emailed Jordan, and then I hyperlink to that email, and not in my Gmail or anything, but hyperlink to the copy that's in Obsidian, so it never goes anywhere, no matter what. So it's just pretty cool, especially if you're a nerd like me. So you guys sound enthralled. Are you gonna
Does it
try it?
work best off? Does it work best off the phone or on the desktop? Or is it?
It actually, they both have their pluses. So I pay the $10 a month to sync them. So I've got it on my phone and I've got it on my desktop.
Okay.
So for example, I've always got my phone near me when I'm reading, and I'll tap a button and it does the time, and I'll link to the book or whatnot. But anytime you have a mouse and a keyboard, it's always going to be easier, If you find that you like it I would try it on desktop, honestly. It's free, like I said. And if you find that you like it and you want to have it with you all the time on your phone, then you can put it on your phone and pay to sync it. So, Chaz on the live chat says, so you can link your notes from Kindle reading. Well, if I understand your question, Chaz, I link to all of my highlights. So each book has a different page. For example, Native Fear by C.F. Page has its own page because I've been highlighting in the Kindle book. So if I'm reading it today, for example, I wouldn't say I'm reading Native Fear and then italicize Native Fear. I would hyperlink Native Fear so that later, if I'm looking at that journal page, I can click on it. And the other nice thing is you can see all the backlinks. If I went straight to the Native Fear page, then I could also see what days I was reading it, referenced reading it. It's just really cool. And the other really cool thing about it is it does this graphic link thing that I can't describe very well. Wish I could show it to you, but I've not been doing screenshots so well. Okay, anything else? Pete, you and Sal have a couple of stories out.
Yeah, we do. We have 2 books out. Uh, 2 anthologies. Let me, because I always get the first one is Nosferatu Unbound, which is a collection of Nosferatu stories.
It's an
Vampire
anthology. You
stories.
guys have a story in. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Nosferatu Unbound.
Yes. And I don't have a copy here, but I can show you on my phone the cover.
Nice.
And then we have Where the Silent Ones Watch, which is edited by James Chambers. It's from Hippocampus. It's stories inspired by William Hope Hodgson. And
That sounds good.
we Sal and I were I think John Langan has a story in there. There's a whole bunch of other people. Believe Linda Addison has a story in there. So we were just thrilled to get into this anthology, and then Chambers gave us the first slot.
Oh, that's the story that's the anthology you were talking about at Necronomicon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's where we first saw the proof. So yeah, we're kind of really excited about that, and it's just hitting the market now. And so we're happy about that. And then I'm going to tell you, Mike, that I lied to you.
Which time?
I am reading something. It's just not fiction.
What are you reading?
So you know that I'm working on this big secret project. It's a novel. It's a book about books and reading books and getting books. And what I am reading is the London Times literary supplements from 1925.
That sounds amazing. Do you know where I can get a copy?
Yeah, I stumbled across it.
Wow. Yeah, that's what the
It's
newspapers looked like back then.
Yeah, it is literally like every Sunday they would put out a literary supplement and discuss all the books that were coming out. And there's many reviews and advertisements, letters to the editor. It's just an amazing resource, and I'm having a lot of fun with reading it. But oh my God, we think of Flame Wars as something that happened in the last 30, 40 years.
No.
Nope. There's letters bouncing back and forth in this newspaper supplement where people are just criticizing the hell out of each other. And it's really, really funny. And there are some like awful, you would think that there would be, if you're reviewing a book, you would give it a good review so you get the review published. Nope. There are terrible reviews. It started out so, well, another book from this guy whose last book was just simply horrible.
And this one's crap too.
And this one falls into the same vein.
And did people have better eyes back then? Because man, that small print.
It is small print. It is really small print, and it gets smaller. Like, so the main print is probably 8-point. And then there are smaller like advertisements that are probably down to 6-point.
Those were the cheap ones.
Yeah. And they're filler. It's like, oh yeah, we have this, 3/4 of an inch square block that we could put something. We have space for. Who wants to pay, £1 to put an advertisement here?
Kim says they had monocles.
They had monocles. I just imagine the big, thick magnifying glass. It's like some guy's reading it.
Yeah.
And like he falls asleep and like it burns a hole in the page. But yeah, I'm reading that. I have 1925, 1926, 1927, and 1929.
Okay.
So, and the neat thing is there's actually an advertisement for a Robert W. Chambers novel.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
One of the rom-com novels?
Yeah, it's a shop girl novel. So that was kind of funny to come across.
Well, I mentioned I'm reading Cannon Bridge by Jonathan Barnes. I cannot say it's really interesting. It's about this Cannon Bridge guy who, as we all know, was just everywhere in the 19th century. Well, let me read the synopsis because I'm not going to do this justice. And I'm just saying I can't say much because I'll ruin it for you. But if you watch the show / listen to this show, you will probably enjoy this book. And you may not agree with me for the first 25%, but then you'll see what I mean. Flamboyant Matthew Cannon Bridge was touched by genius, the most influential mind of the 19th century, a novelist, playwright, the poet of his generation. The only problem is he should never have existed, and recently divorced 21st century Dr. Toby Judd is the only person to realize that something is wrong with history. Basically, he has this epiphany that there's no way this guy really existed, and it's just it's a really novel concept. And yeah, check it out, Cannon Bridge, Jonathan Bardens, and remember Kelly's book is out, A Distant Silver Melody by K.L. Young, and it's on Kindle Unlimited. It's in print, and it's the most famous game with werewolves, but that's the most basic description to give it, because it's actually much better than that sounds. There were a lot of surprises in this book for me. So yeah. Chaz just wrote, Jesus, I'll never catch up. That's exactly what I'm thinking too.
That is the whole point of this podcast. We will never, ever catch up. My wife literally called me out on it this week. She said to me, the TBR pile is out of control. I would like to see the furniture again.
Danielle's very glad I have this office out here now.
Yeah.
Very glad. So, Jordan, thank you so much for being here, man.
Thank you for having me.
Sure. And remember, it's Native Fear by CF Page. And check it out. If you like cosmic horror, you'll like it. And it grabs you right from the beginning, as Alan said. So anyway, guys, everyone who watched live, thank you. Watching later, thank you. And listening later, don't forget, is Matt still here?
No.
Yeah, I thought he was unusually quiet. Oh, I'll bet he had to go check on his wife.
Isabel.
Yeah.
She has a name.
Isabel.
Yeah.
Maybe they're having a Taylor Swift party too.
Probably. Now, speaking of things that not ought to be known, Peter Rawlik is actually the one hosting this Taylor Swift party, and he was kind enough to walk away from it for an hour and a half to do the show today, and I really appreciate it. Thank you, Pete.
You know, Mike, since you restructured when the time and space of when we're having these shows, it has been very hard.
You mean since I went back to the live format at 6?
Yes.
I know. I appreciate the sacrifice. That's what I just said.
All right. But tonight, I actually restructured this weekend so that we would have family dinner on Saturday night so that I could be here for the entire show.
And I appreciate it very much.
Actually, it just because they wanted to hold a Taylor Swift concert party and I didn't want to be there. So
I was feeling special, and now less so.
Join my ex-wives. They don't feel special anymore either.
Are you going to divorce me?
Can you divorce, podcast people?
Let's say no. Let's say no.
Let's just say no.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks, guys, for being here. Jordan, good to have you. And thanks to everybody for watching and listening. Thank you, especially to my patrons. Got another Patreon podcast coming tomorrow. So if you're not a Patreon, it really helps me. And you get a lot of content. So anyway, good night, folks. See you next time.